another edition of the new ND Nation Radio.
We're going inside them. We're going outside them. Inside them, outside them. And when we get them on the run once, we're going to keep them on the run.
And Notre Dame, as number one goes down, Syracuse undefeated no more.
This is now top-notch college hockey.
Everything here at Notre Dame has been done on faith and a commitment to excellence. You are Notre Dame. You are special.
You would impart some wisdom or some tips on the guys coming in.
I would probably say stay on top of your academics.
Rock County broke free at the 30, 35, 40. The Rocket is going to do it again.
And you're also going to walk out of here with a degree from the University of Notre Dame. In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself.
You know, this play like a champion sign, Rocket Ishmael's touched many times. Jerome Bettis has touched many times. You know, the best stadium you play in, I'm going to say Notre Dame.
We're going to get them on the run. We're going to go, 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 go. And we aren't going to stop until we go to that goal line. Don't forget, man, today, we're going to win.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our first guest of the evening. Let's go ahead and welcome the Notre Dame alum and great best-selling author Nicholas Sparks. Nicholas, welcome to the new ND Nation Radio.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Steve is jumping. He's ready to ask you some questions.
Hey, let's go. I've enjoyed your show so far. I've enjoyed watching the basketball team, frankly. They're good. 9 games now in a row?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, nice.
That is correct. A good alumni right there. We're going to introduce properly to the fans listening at home. You got Nicholas Sparks, University of Notre Dame, class of 1988.
Right.
18 published novels, and 7 of which have been adapted into movies. So thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, great to be here. I remember 1988. That for those of you who don't remember, that was the year of Tim Brown. That's the year he won the Heisman in '87 and graduated with me in '88.
Well, no question. You were on campus for some special moments in Notre Dame history, so it's just great to have you on the show. We wanted to start talking with you. The New ND Nation, we're a nonprofit, like to celebrate and support other nonprofits affiliated with the school, and you are super involved in charities and foundations. So I wanted to see if you could talk about some of the things you do, including the creative writing program scholarships at Notre Dame, as well as some of the other foundations you work with.
Sure. Years ago, I worked with Notre Dame to help, endow the program for creative writing. It's a master's program. And one of the great things about working with Notre Dame is that they really allowed me a lot of input in the way I thought the program should be designed. And, of course, I took their input as well. But the way the program works, it's a relatively small program, but some of the money is set aside for scholarships so they can get some very quality writers in. Some of the money is set aside to provide for a fellowship so that someone who had the most talent, will be able to take time to teach classes and write their own novel. And then over the years, I've probably sent roughly 20% of the class every year off to New York, where they either intern at a publishing house or they intern at an agency. And I did that simply because I remember when I was starting out, I didn't know anything about being a writer. The only thing I knew, edited publishing houses look like what you saw on TV. You had no idea what any of this stuff looked like. So I figured, that if the program ever did put out a writer who could get published, then at least maybe it was one of those people who worked there. Maybe they would know an editor to talk to, or maybe they would know an agent to send their novel to. And that's really, a way to involve some real-world experience. So that's what I've done with the University of Notre Dame. And then, of course, I have my own foundation. It's the Nicholas Sparks Foundation. I know there's a catchy name, But it's really involved in education, in curriculum design, and it's a heavily international program, and we support a particular school in the South in my hometown here. My wife and I actually founded that school, but I think with the world becoming much more global and interconnected, I really think that elementary school, middle schools, and high schools have to do a better job preparing kids for the new world. It's different. I'm here in this small town in the South, and our radiologists here in town work with a group in Australia, so they alternate reading X-rays, so that during the daytime, the physicians here in New Bern read Australian MRIs essentially, and then vice versa. So nobody's reading late at night. But my point behind that is this world is it's becoming more global with the speed of information flowing at so fast, and our schools largely are stuck back in the 1950s. We've had global trade forever, but we really haven't had this immediate global flow of information. Look what it did for the Arab Spring. Just that would be how fast social media can spread. So we really have to do a good job of preparing students to be able to compete in a world where, look, you might have to compete against people from other countries. It's the way of the world. We have to keep up. So that's it's a passion of my wife and I, and so we come up with some curriculum designs. We want to make these available to other people, schools free of charge, so that they say, hey, we want to become more international too, but we don't have the resources to design a curriculum. We don't have the know-how to put it in. And we're like, okay, here you go. And really, that's a wonderful goal of my wife and I, and my foundation supports that. And what else? We're having a big celebrity family weekend coming up on April 19th. Anyone out there want to come? It's on the website, nicholassparksfoundation.org. Have a bunch of celebrities down, including another Notre Dame alum, Hannah Storm. So she's a friend of mine, and she'll be coming down among many other celebrities. And it's a way to, there's golf, there's family fun night, there's a concert, there's a brunch at my home. There's a lot of different things people can choose from.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff online and on your website, and I encourage our listeners and your fans to go to nicholassparks.com or check out the foundation as well. And you just do a lot of very cool stuff, and we're appreciative of that representation of the Fighting Irish spirit. So,
hey, thank you.
Moving forward, I wanted to ask you, I like to ask a lot of the athletes, you were a prep track star in California, and you ended up trekking out to South Bend. Tell us what went into the decision and what drew you into Notre Dame.
Yeah, that was you want the real, I suppose you probably want the truth, but it was funny.
Please.
Yeah, because it had less to do with Notre Dame than anything else. It was I was accepted at Georgetown and Dartmouth and Notre Dame, a lot of different places, and I was almost positive I was going to head off to Dartmouth, but I went out there for a recruiting visit in April, and it was like late April, and I went out there and there was still a foot of snow on the ground, and I said, I was from California, I'm like, well, this is just not going to work. It's late April, how am I ever going to train? So I came home and I said to my mom, well, I'm not going to Dartmouth, I'm going to Arizona, University of Arizona. And she's like, you're not going there, education this, education that. And at that moment, while my mom and I were discussing it, the phone rang. It was Joe Piani from Notre Dame. He's still the coach there. And he said, hey, look, we're still here, got a full ride. And so I went ahead and went off to Notre Dame. She said, well, then go there, my mom said. I said, okay. And I went out there.
Where
it was
did
funny.
You guys
and it was
in the
what
winter?
The funny thing was like most very recruited athletes, I took all 5 of my visits. But I did not take a visit to Notre Dame.
Well, I was going to ask that, where did you train in the wintertime at University of Notre Dame?
Oh man, that was tough. We had the old track that backed up to the hockey rink. It was in the ACC, and it was a track that it was tough. It's certainly not the fabulous Mayo track, over there, which is probably the best indoor track in the United States. But when we were there, that track did not get completed until after I'd graduated. So we ran on a smaller, I forget how many laps to the mile, maybe 10 laps, 9 laps to the mile, something like that. And it was funny because you train and because the backstretch was literally backed up to the hockey ring. And so when you're training so much indoors, you try not to run in lane 1 because the turns are too sharp. So you're running on lane 8. So, you're running down one side and it's 70 degrees. You go down the back stretch and it's 50. It was an interest. Hey, Notre Dame, man, we had some tough runners back then. You go check that record board. There's a lot of records still holding from my era. You had to be tough
to bring that up.
Back then.
I have the picture. It'll be on the YouTube version. I have the picture at the Notre Dame track facility taken today that your record and your name is still up. So that'll be on the YouTube version of this interview. So
nice,
and I have your freshman year track photo. I don't know if you have that.
I see it. It's still in the track books they send out or something like that.
All right, I got to appease the listeners here if I don't start asking some questions about the books and movies. So I'll move on to that. Question was the last movie that came out was the last song. You have another one coming out, the Lucky One. That was the first one you got credited with the screenplay, with the co-writing. So how has that transition been for you as you start to write more in the movies and not just handing over the novel?
Well, it's interesting, and here's another Notre Dame fact. The guy I co-wrote the last song with was Jeff Van Wee, who, if you look closely, is also in that same picture. He was part of that record-setting team also. So Jeff and I, another Notre Dame graduate, also we were credited with the writing of the last song. It really depends. Sometimes I'll write the screenplay, sometimes I won't. Largely that comes down to a function of my time. If I'm not particularly busy that year, I'll say, sure, I'll write it. Or if I'm too busy, I'll say, you know what, maybe I'll just sell the rights. And lately now I've been moving more into the producing end of it, which is a lot of fun. And still I hand off most of that work to the other producers I work with because they're in Los Angeles and, they do some things. So it's fun, Film is always fun. I've been very fortunate. The films have been very successful, and I enjoy it.
Well, yeah, we're not questioning the success of your films. I'm sure many of us have seen a lot of them. Mike, my next question, kind of piggybacking on that, was how does it feel, though, when you write a novel and you become attached to a character or something like that, and they end up changing them? And I'll go right. Your next one coming out, The Lucky One, was starring Zac Efron. So I noticed from the trailers, I read the book this week, and I was curious as how you felt with the casting and the bit of a change of his personality from what I can see in the trailers from the character you created in the book.
It's probably less change than you'd think, and actually Zac is a very accurate portrayal of a Marine, and I've seen the film a couple of times, and it's fabulous. I mean, the people who have also seen it say it's one of the best adaptations of any of my novels, so I'm very excited about it. Zac really wanted to do the role. He was a fabulous person to work with, and, I live in North Carolina, eastern North Carolina in particular, and in eastern North Carolina, it's a very military part of the country. We have Camp Lejeune right here. We have Fort Bragg. We have Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. They're all within an hour and a half of my house. Most of them are within an hour. So, we see these young men, these Marines, right? And let me tell you, they're kids. They look like Zac. I mean, I coach track and field around here. I've already had kids head off to Afghanistan for a year and come back, and they're on their second deployment now. And I look at them, and, they're still kids. So Zac, most of these Marines, they're around that age. So I thought he did a really good job. My own opinion, I think people are going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to check it out after having read the book. I think I was a little more thrown off when I first saw the trailer because you make a big deal in the book about how long his hair is, and Zac Efron's with that little cropped haircut in the movie. So,
well, yeah, he's got to be Zac. They got to put their own spin on the character, which is fine with me.
Well, his hair is almost shorter than he does in real life when he's doing the Bieber, but I'm excited to see it. That movie comes out April 20th for all of your fans listening online. I actually did have a question. How often are you approached by fans with ideas for novels that you should write?
Frequently.
Frequently?
Frequently. A lot of them come in letters. I probably get 2, 3, 4 a week from people, and then whenever I'm out doing book signings, I have probably 3 or 4 say the same thing, or they'll drop me off part of the stories. The simple fact is, however, I can't look at them, and that's for legal reasons. You don't want to be accused of ever stealing someone's story. So, it's something that all authors have to deal with. So you thank them, but you can't really read it. Yeah, and I got to write the stories that I'm working on already. You know, I mean, if I had more time to write or something, you know, perhaps I could do something different. But yeah, I do my own stories.
Yeah, well, the reason I asked is I was going to pitch you a Notre Dame one. Writing a book about taking place on the University of Notre Dame.
Yeah. You know, I met my wife-to-be when I was at Notre Dame, although it wasn't at Notre Dame. We were on spring break from Notre Dame down in Florida, and I bumped into her down there when I was a senior. So there we go.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of the quarterback at Notre Dame and the head cheerleader at USC and her ending up in South Bend, but I'll leave the writing to you for the future, but I just wanted to toss that up.
It'd be a lot of fun.
I guess the last question, you know, just tell us a little bit more about how you feel about Notre Dame and, you know, your memories there and when you look back on your time in South Bend.
You know, Notre Dame was a great experience. It was hard for me. I don't know. You know, first year was hard. You know, I was homesick. It was tough. I didn't necessarily get along with my roommate as well as I probably should have, and I'm perfectly willing to take the blame for that. It was tough, and yet part of overcoming that, I guess, and then meeting great people and seeing how serious everyone was about studying, you know, it was a great experience. You know, going to Notre Dame taught me to work very hard because I had to work very hard in the classroom to keep up. I mean, there's a lot of smart people there, so I had to work very hard. And a lot of that has kind of trickled into my daily life now. You know, the people that I meet from Notre Dame, all the people that I graduated with, you know, they're successful. You know, most of them have been married forever. They're good at their jobs, and I think that has something to do with the culture there. So when I think back on Notre Dame, yeah, I think about the friendships I made. I think about the wonderful people, the acquaintances I've made as well. I remember the culture there, the fact that it is a Catholic university, that service is important. And you know, here I am 20 years later, foundation, and throwing in a celebrity weekend on actually the same weekend as the movie premieres. You know, and part of that giving or that giving back, I think that was also I know for a fact that had to do with going to the University of Notre Dame. It's a very special place.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time on here on the New ND Nation Radio, and I want to encourage all the listeners out there, read The Lucky One before you go in the theaters. It's a fantastic book along the lines of so many of your other ones. If you want to go ahead and say again the websites for your foundation and some of the stuff you do, please feel free to take that lead.
Hey, sure. It's NicholasSparksFoundation.org, and primarily right now that is really about the Celebrity Family Weekend. And I'd love to have anybody from Notre Dame who's interested, you know, come on down, see where I live. It's actually a fabulous place. Meet some celebrities, golf, have fun with your families. It'll be a great weekend.
Well, Nicholas, thank you so much from all of us here at the New ND Nation. We're big fans of what you do in the world for representing Notre Dame and with your books. And, you know, we wish you the best of luck. You're having a great run, and we wish you nothing but the best going forward.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
All right, have a great day, Nicholas.
Will do.